Thinking I plan, I need it. I gotta find a way. Watch I spread my wings. You gon' hide away. I get it all kinds of ways. Nigga, it's time. Time to show you play. Time to show you lean. It's time. Time to put it in bed. Kindness taken for granted. It's time. Time to show we got it. Niggas, I count my pockets. Niggas, I play. I show you my head. And still I double my profits. Time.
Well, well, well. You guys know what it is. This is another live segment. This is Gridiron Gains, and it is telling me that you are now live. Welcome to another Gridiron Gains. Welcome all are welcome. I am your host, Tony the Tycoon Hills. I am so excited to be on tonight. Listen, let me tell you guys something. As y'all listening to the smooth sounds of the brother Domain, aka Lil Tip, Big Tip, TIP, all the monikers that he go by, right? Yeah. This his son, man. Boy got a little something on him, man. But got a special guest. I'm gonna tell you something about this brother, man. When you talk about resilience, this guy got the heart of the lion, right? Straight out of Louisville, football glory, right? This man went from chasing quarterbacks to Big East Big East titles and earning Super Bowl rings. Played with the New Orleans Saints, stepped into the boxing ring, and is still to this day, I believe, undefeated. We're going to jump into that a little bit. But I tell you what, today's guest, man, he's lived multiple journeys and lived multiple stories, and he's continuing to grow. And so what I want to do is I want to introduce you guys to my brother from another mother, Mr. Earl Heyman. I gave him the Haymaker part. We're going to let him jump on here and clarify that. So with that being said, I'm going to ask my brother to come on real quick. Let's get him started. All right, let's see. I don't want to add him as a moderator. All right, let's see. Earl, go to your, where it says request to join live. Go to that for me. It should pop up in my screen. The voice of DFW is on here. I see you, bruh. I don't want to ask him to be a moderator. If I do that, I don't think I can get him on. Let me see. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Y'all know how we do, and we do it live, man. All right. Let's see. This is always great dealing with this. All right, Earl, if you can, it's a little arrow on your phone. It's like a camera with a plus side. Click on that for me and see if it'll let you. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm going to send the invite. Probably take a little bit for you to be able to get on there, but I sent you an invite. So this is going to be, anyway, so while he's working on that, while we're working on the technical difficulties, man, I'm excited about this one. I mean, you guys know, like I know, man, y'all seen my story. You know, I've had to crawl, fight, and scratch, you know, to get the time that I got to play in the professional football league. But I'm going to tell you, it was worth it. And it was worth it because of not only the resiliency, but also, all right, Earl, I invited you again. Not only the resiliency, but also the lessons that I learned, man, being able to overcome adversity, being able to, you know, keep going after a vision and a dream, having your faith tested. I heard it once said before, how do you know if you have faith if it's never tested? So I think that in this interview, I know that in this interview, that you guys are going to resonate really well with Earl because of all of the things that he had to go through just to be able to get to the top. So he's all right. We got it going now. We're going to accept that join in, and we should be rocking and rolling and ready to go. All right, there it is. My man.
My man, T Hill. What's up, man?
Man, what's happening with you? Listen, now I ain't gonna clown your tech savviness, man. Even though you in the tech space, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Nah, it's all good,
Yeah.
man. Hey,
My apologies, live. Instagram. My apologies, IG. My apologies. I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to figure it out.
nah, it's all good, my brother. Listen, first and foremost, man, I always want to tell my guests, man, shower with praise, shower with love, and let them know, man, I appreciate you for joining, and joining the Gridiron Gains crew. I always tell people this, man, time is the most important thing that is hardly thought of. And so for you to give some of that to me tonight, man, I'm so thankful, man, appreciative and glad that you're here, man. And with that being said, man, we gonna jump right into it. And we gonna keep it real smooth too, bro. This is about you. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So the
Okay.
questions are about you, everything's about your journey, but give people a little bit about you, man, just about your background. Talk about Louisville a little bit, and tell people where you come from.
Yeah, the Derby City, man. Born and raised, by the grace of God, and I proudly stand on my faith as a believer. By the grace of God, I was a high school All-American.
Yeah.
Back when it was only one high school All-American game. Now they got like 4 or 5 different All-American games. They only had one when I was coming out of high school in 2005, and was blessed to play with Deshaun Jackson,
Oh, wow.
Michael Orr from the Blind Side, Mark
Yeah.
Sanchez, and Ndamukong Suh. Some of the guys I played with, Eugene Monroe, who's the first overall pick. Played with a lot of talented guys, Rashad Mendenhall, just to name a few.
Yeah, man.
So, my high school career was storied, was well respected. Was blessed to do a lot of different things, and ultimately decided to stay home and play for the University of Louisville. I could have went pretty much anywhere in the country. I just decided it would be easier on my family if I stayed home.
Man, absolutely. So Ballard High School, right?
Ballard, yeah, Ballard High School. Shout out to
All
Ballard.
right. You can always tell people that had a good high school experience, man, because when you say the name, man, it brings a big smile on their face. Brother, you
Yeah, for
teasing,
sure, for
man.
sure. I
So
was
you got you.
actually I was actually thinking of Rondo. That's who I was thinking of. Rajon Rondo is one of the guys I grew up next to, and he went to the rival school, and beat in Eastern, and before he went to Oak Hill and beat us pretty badly my sophomore year, his junior year. That's
Yeah,
what made me think. I had recently seen him on a podcast. It made me think about him and some of the
yeah,
stuff that he's doing.
man, he's killing it. He's killing it, man. We're
Yeah, for
champion
sure,
in his own right. Champion in his own
for
right.
sure.
So being a legend in Louisville like you were, and a lot of people they need to get in your background and look you up. I mean, this is going to do that a little bit, but I want people to go in and really look you up, man, because you did some pretty big things, man, in high school. But I want to know, like, what was your biggest influence while you were going up through the ranks and earning a name for yourself at Ballard High?
Sure, yeah. So I'll start with my influence in my faith in God. That's my biggest influence. It always has been.
Yeah.
Trying to at least live a life worthy of the sacrifice of Jesus. That's what I stand on. And then my brothers. All of my brothers played in the NFL. My oldest
Wow.
brother Eric, he played for one season in Tampa Bay. And then my older stepbrother Isaac Souls, he played. Got drafted by Cleveland in 2005 NFL draft, and then he played in Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Detroit. Gave me a lot of keys to the game, and he played ball in Indiana, so I kind of got to watch him and watch their journey first. And then my younger brother played in Kansas City with Romeo Correll and the gang. So for me, they were either motivating me or inspiring me outside of trying to live right and do right for God and do the things God wanted me to do. So for me, that's always been my inspiration. It's always been kind of what I aspired to be, and they pushed me in a bunch of different ways to try to kind of live up to that dream. We got some draft picks and things like that, but there's only one Super Bowl champion in the family.
Yeah, man. Look here. Let's
Yeah,
talk
so
about
yeah,
it.
yeah, we got to talk. We got to when we get together and stuff, we always got to have those conversations and stuff
I
since we
love
are
it. I
different
love it,
phases of
man.
our life. Yeah.
Hey, look, man, I tell my brother, man, he doing big things right now, man. He training all these athletes, they screaming his name. He traveling the
Mm-hmm.
country. I'm like, hey, bro, it's all good, man. I'm still on the one in the family with the hardware, big dog.
Yeah,
Two
yeah,
times.
and you got to stand on it. You got to stand on that for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always good for the brotherly meetups and stuff we have. Every year we do we're getting back into it. It's been kind of rough going through COVID and all that type of stuff, but
For
we
sure.
usually do a brothers meetup every year. So this year we're going to get back on that, man, and I'm looking forward to having those type of conversations. But you said something that was very intriguing to me because as a high school standout, man, you could have went to any school in the country that you wanted to. I know you said you wanted to stay, in near home, which is why you chose Louisville. But was there any other things that went into that decision outside of that, or was that like just clear and cut?
No, I look at the college landscape now, right? And
Yeah.
our era kind of paved that way. You went to Texas, Texas won the national championship in our tenure. You yourself are a national champion on the collegiate level. We won the Orange Bowl at Louisville, which for the University of Louisville, which is traditionally and historically, if you're from Louisville, it's a basketball city.
Yeah.
It's been historically great for basketball. But for us, when I was coming out, I came out at a time when Michael Bush came out, great running back from Oakland.
Yep.
He's from Louisville, but he played at Oakland, played a few years in the league. Brian Brom, Mario Uridia. There are a lot of local guys, Louisville guys, that stayed home. And we were trying to build a culture of Louisville-produced talent at the University of Louisville, and that we thought we would win the national championship. And truth be told, we were Mike Bush's injury away from getting that done. I used to tell Malcolm Jenkins all the time, we were rookies together in New Orleans, hey, we'd have played y'all with a healthy Mike Bush. I like our chances, right?
Yeah,
So yeah. Of course, he comes back in, whatever. We would have beat y'all. We had Ted Ginn and all the games.
Yeah.
But for me, it was more or less about that, giving my mother an opportunity to go to the games, giving my father an opportunity to go to the games, my brothers, et cetera. And then also trying to build a culture that Louisville-born athletes can be successful at the homegrown university in Louisville. So we were trying to kind of stand on that culture together and collectively, from a local talent perspective.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense too, bro, because when you look, I mean, like you talked about, the college landscape has changed a lot. But when you and I were going to school, man, it really was about that, having pride in that state. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like if you're from Texas, you want to go to Texas right now.
Right.
A&M and Texas Tech and all these other schools will say, no, bro, that wasn't it. You're lying. You did.
Yeah.
You ain't get accepted. So now that's why the only game you got up for was the orange and white. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But now that those things have shifted, due to NIL and things like that, and we'll jump into that. But I want to stay on the Big East thing, man, because that was a big deal to be able to have a Louisville Cardinal basketball state go and win, the Orange Bowl, man. Talk about that experience, what went into that moment, and the preparation for you guys to ultimately achieve that victory in 2006 for that Orange Bowl.
Yeah, I'll say nobody thought we could do it from this perspective. The first game of the season, we play a rivalry game, right? It's a trophy game against the University of Kentucky. It's a big game. If you're from Kentucky, that's a big rivalry game. It's Duke, UNC, it's Ohio State, Michigan. But for us, it's Louisville, Kentucky. And we lost our running back, Michael Bush. I mentioned him earlier, too. I alluded to him earlier. And he had like 175 yards and two or three touchdowns at the half. Yeah. And we were blowing them out. We were doing well. And once he went down, it's kind of like shattered our hopes for the season, right? Yeah. And so we kind of looked at each other and we said, hey, what are we going to make of the season? Are we just going to lay down because Mike's there? And at the time, Mike was being considered for Heisman. He was a Heisman candidate. He was top 5 preseason in Heisman voting. He had just had a great first half, and then he breaks his leg. And so we had a decision to make. And so we had to kind of go through the gauntlet. We played the University of Miami. They came in and stomped on the bird, so we had to handle them. And then we went through some adversity. We had to go through those trials in order to even make it to the Orange Bowl. And truth be told, even without Mike, we jump off sides playing Rutgers on the road, and we lose to Rutgers by 3. That's back when they had Ray Rice and Mike Teal and AJ, and so that they had a lot of talent, and so we came up short by 3 points. But if we get those 3 points, we're winning the national championship game, and instead of the Orange Bowl. And so we had to kind of shoot for that. And I think people started taking us seriously after we beat West Virginia with Pat White and Steve Slayton and Owen Schmidt, the gang. So once we beat them, people started saying, "No, we're still a pretty good team." And in our own right, we had a lot of NFLers on both sides of the football on that team, from Bobby Petrino before he went to the Falcons. So we had to prove it to ourselves, and we felt like we could do it. But once we lost Mike, we had to kind of overcome the adversity of losing like our best player. And the guy we can rely on and trust on and make sure we can kind of excel towards the goal of winning the national championship, or at least getting into the BCS game and winning the BCS game.
Yeah, and during those times, man, those games carried a lot of weight. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
you want to win a national championship. It's like our run at Texas, like,
Mm-hmm.
04, 04, 05, we lose to Oklahoma game. We felt like we should have won, but, kept on, winning, and we ended up going 11-1. We played in the Rose Bowl and we played Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yep.
Vince jumps on the stage and tells them we'll be back, right? So now
Mm-hmm.
you
Yep.
talk about no pressure, right?
Yep.
But
Yeah.
now
Put a bullseye on your back for
you
sure.
know what I mean? Like, appreciate you, B. But then, it's that stepping stone that gets us to the next level, and we ultimately, win a national championship when we play, USC. So those are the kind of the similar steps that y'all went through the season. It's like y'all feeling good. Y'all got the national championship hopes. You come through some adversity, and now you guys got to overcome that and get to that next level. That being that BCS bowl game. At that particular time, you're a leader on the team, man. Can you describe like how maybe some of your family upbringing, being a leader at a well organized high school and having success there, how all of that you were able to combine all of that to be able to keep your team focused for the prize that was hand, and that being the BCS win?
Um, you're coming from where I'm from, and every city's got a place like this,
Yeah.
that's disenfranchised,
Yep.
that is poor economically, poor socially,
Yep.
and it is what it is. But you learn how to work through adversity, and for me working through adversity meant leaning on my faith a lot.
Yeah.
So for me, when times got tough or times got difficult, or we were playing West Virginia, we get down a touchdown because Steve Slayton hits his head on the goalpost, and now they're up 10, and it's 10, 5 minutes left in the half, or whatever the case may be. Those are times, like, for me, I encourage myself in the Word, and that energy is infectious. So for me personally, leadership looks a lot like servitude.
Yeah.
So in order to be a qualified leader, and these are lessons I still apply to my profession today, you have to be of service. So you have
Yeah.
to be of service in a way that is conducive to a healthy environment. So instead of yelling at somebody who might not be receptive to that, sometimes you just got to show them. You just got to kind of show them by your play. So I was hustling for every loose, every loose fumble. I was hustling for tackles. I was all over the field when we were playing, and people watch the film and start to say, "Hey, I need to do more of that because he's doing more," and it
Yeah.
becomes infectious. So for me, my upbringing, from my dad starting me out in football to my brothers kind of encouraging me and raising me, and always being in constant competition with future NFL players, because my older brother played O-line and the oldest brother played DB. So the one that played O-line, we always had a personal thing because he
Yeah.
played O-line.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, I had to learn that at an early age. Now, nothing is given to you. You have to earn everything. And even it helps you appreciate things when you have less and you still play.
Yeah.
So even though I had mismatched shoes and cleats, and my helmet may have been too big and my shoulder pads too small, or vice versa. It didn't really matter because you learn to appreciate things once you get the things that you kind of worked hard for. So for me, going through the gauntlet, growing up in the way I did, kind of taught me, it's just football at the end of the day. You can overcome this.
Yeah.
It's people struggling for the meal. Yeah, we know what that
Yeah.
looks like. I know what it looks like to heat the stove up, because it didn't have gas, and I never had cable.
Yeah.
I know what life looks like when you're trying to make it, syrup sandwiches and things like that. So I get it. So for me, it was never that on the football field. So I could always lean back on Jesus and lean back on his ability to help uplift me, and then encourage my teammates around me, and then being tough. That's a part of it too. Toughness. You know, Tough times don't last. Tough people do, and you're gonna encounter hard times. So you got to learn how to kind of work through those hard times, towards a common goal.
Man, that's a word right there, bro. And I know a lot of people's lives are going to be changed by listening to what you just said. It's very important, man. Whether we're talking sports here, but life happens in your business space, in corporate
Mm-hmm.
America. Whatever that is, man. We're all going to face that adversity, and that adversity is not there to get us to stop. It's there to get us to become hardened to the things that we have to be hardened to, so that we can go and elevate to the next level, man. A lot of times, it's just like working out, man. If you have a weakness in the area, you want to continue working that weakness out until it becomes a strength. That's the same thing with adversity. And you know a little bit about adversity, man.
Sure.
I believe you had an injury, right? You broke your foot. We talk about broken bones, man. So
Yeah.
you broke your
Sure.
foot, man. Kind of walk us through that and the thought process of, okay, I have this injury, and now I have to go through the process in order to get back to where I was so that I can compete and be with my brothers on the football field. What was that process like for you, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally?
Yeah. So this is my sophomore year. We're fresh off of the Orange Bowl win. We got a new coach coming in, and we feel like we can make a run at the national championship next season. Got a lot of guys coming back, a lot of guys elected not to go to the NFL and to stay. And I went the whole spring on a fractured foot.
Yeah.
It was stress fractured, and then I broke it in the actual spring game and finished the game and everything. So for me, I had a whole off season to kind of rehab, but I wasn't gonna let that define me. I would never let an injury define not just who I am as a person, but who I am as a football player. And my teammates knew that about me, just from our personal walk and just from them knowing me on and off the field. I'll be okay. Yeah, I'll come back, and I'll come back better than ever. And so when I went through that process mentally, I wasn't too concerned about it. The doctor told me, 4 to 6 weeks. He told me that, hey, this injury. I mentioned Mike Bush. Mike Bush had the same injury season before, around the same time. So we kind of had a blueprint on how to not just manage the injury, but manage the recovery process. So, just trust the team to do what they needed to do to advise me and guide me. And in those moments, just ask God for peace, enjoy. The Bible promises a peace that surpasses all understanding. So for me, I keep that peace in any situation, any circumstance, and kept it through the injury. And I didn't, by the grace of God, I didn't miss any practice time, and I didn't miss any film time or game time, and recovered actually faster than they had originally anticipated. So I was back in about a month and a half, roughly. I was back and doing full contact participation.
Man, see, that goes to you doing the right things every day, man, and doing that extra, man. A lot of people don't know. They hear that and be like, oh, okay, he bounced back. But like, nah, man, there's a lot of things that go into that. How you take care of your body, how you rest, the supplements you put in, the food that you put in your body, like the rehab work, like all of that matters, man. And that's a discipline. It's a discipline to do something like that and have an expected, end to what this result is going to be, but not really know, right? We have this thought process of, okay, we're going to do this, but we still have to go through it in order for it to be able to come to fruition. So that wouldn't be your first challenge though, man. So you go in 06, 07, 08, man, you ball out, you do your thing, you're flying all over the field. I can only imagine you getting ready for the NFL draft and believing that, hey, this is my chance. This is my opportunity. This is where all of the work that I put in is going to pay off, man. So walk us through 2009, that moment, and the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, and then ultimately you being able to get an opportunity with the New Orleans Saints as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah. So I'll walk you through it. It's because my perspective is a little bit different. It's different from some of my teammates. Like I played with Amobi Okoye. He was drafted 10th overall. So his experience and his workout regimen was different than my experience and my workout regimen. It wasn't what I realized just in my journey.
Shout out to Amobi. He was on the show.
Yeah, Amobi. Yeah, that's my guy. It's my brother. we me and him up, 2 peas in a pod. So for me, I got to see that. So my mentors, Elvis Dumerville, he's another one. He was a senior when I was a freshman.
Play with Elvis.
Elvis was great for my development as an athlete. For me, I knew it wasn't about production because when I looked at my production from a D-tackle perspective, it was right there with the top guys. It wasn't about the conference. The conference had the prestige. It was about wins and losses. It was about, hey, you won the Orange Bowl in 07, but the next 2 years you went 6-6, and then you went 6-7.
Yeah.
And so, you want the guys who are winning, and you want the guys who have good programs. And then I realized that the business aspect of it. So for me, you don't really understand this until you actually see it. In the NFL, the NFL is a meritocracy. It's not the meritocracy. Sometimes people could, pretend that it is. It's a business. And so if you and I play the same position and I'm marginally better than you or exponentially better than you, if the money's been invested in you, they want an ROI. And I didn't even understand those business concepts at the time. So for me, I'm thinking it doesn't really matter. All I need is an opportunity. That's what I'm thinking. I go through pro day because I didn't get a combine invite. I had a senior day invite, but wasn't able to take it because I had just had a son and he needed some diapers. So I had to do some things to get to. So my journey was a little bit different. And in hindsight, I probably should have took it because it would have been good for me and good for recognition. But what I ended up doing was boxing an exhibition. That's what I ended up doing. I boxed in 2 exhibitions, and I did one exhibition and boxed because I was boxing while we were in school, and then I did another one the weekend before pro day and hurt my shoulder, which played a factor into it. If I had listened to kind of some of the wisdom that from the older guys, my brother included, I wouldn't have tested when they asked me to. I just would have kind of did the position work drills and not did any other tests, but I didn't. So for me, I go through the draft happens, don't get drafted. I get invited to training camp. Didn't even get picked up as an undrafted free agent to start with. And this is where faith comes into play. And this is why I speak about it. We'll go down there for rookie minicamp. It's 300 spots. There's only one spot. 300 guys, one spot. This is how competitive the NFL market is when you're in the lower tier of the undrafted free agent pool. So you're down there with all the guys that they did sign for undrafted free agency. This is before they did a new CBA, which, again, I knew nothing about. So the rookies will get paid. If you're an undrafted free agent, it was around the time where, like, I don't want to get drafted in the 7th round because I want to pick where I go, because it's a basic open-end bidding war for the best undrafted free agents. Whereas you might be able to draft somebody at the time, the guy might get 120, 200,000, 300, 400,000 because the teams want him.
Yeah.
And so I get down there. I get to New Orleans. We sign in. I get in the room with Jeremy Parnell. Shout out to Jeremy.
Yeah, JP.
Shout out to JP, man.
Yeah,
he was down there, man. And look, and what makes me laugh about it is, in hindsight, Jeremy had a phenomenal career as an offensive tackle, but at the time he was a defensive end, and we were the only 2 rookie D linemen. So we get down there. And we go through all the drills, and we get up there in front of the coach. My coach, Bill Johnson, shout out to Bill, great D-line coach for me, and Greg Williams. He said, hey, draw the defense. And not only was I able to draw the defense, I drew the defense perfectly, but then I drew the route concepts on offense to beat the defense, and then drew a defense behind it to shore up the offensive route concepts. And they said, wait a second, you're a D lineman. Like, you're only supposed to know what the D line does, right? And so they said, okay, well, draw this. And so we started talking football, and not only that, I had a great camp. Just long story short, I had a great camp, and I get up there, and I felt God telling me, I'll make a way. And I get up there. Of course, the team is the Saints. That's not to be misunderstood. And God, the things that people consider fortuitous or coincidental is just God choosing to remain anonymous in the presence of that circumstance. But, he gets all the credit, because I get up there and I'm waiting. I've done all I can do at the end of these 3 days. So everybody's getting ready to go home. And the D-line coach says, hey, what are you doing down here? And I'm getting some food before we leave, because I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat, before we leave, right? And he said, you don't need to leave. They're offering you a contract. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, all right. And he's like, yeah, we've been said that. Go on up there and get it. Remember, there was only one spot.
Yeah.
On the entire defense, there was one spot. And so I go up there, and I get up there. There's a message that says faith. It says faith. I see it as clear as day. It's faith and blessed. And I felt that was God talking to me about my particular journey. So I signed the contract. We go into OTAs, and there are some crazy stories about how we knew we were going to win the Super Bowl from those time periods, because it was Greg's first year in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So from that time period right there, there's a lot of perseverance and overcoming, and ups and downs, ebbs and flows. But by the grace of God, again, I was able to get the contract and sign my first NFL contract at the tender age of 21, and didn't look back from there.
Yeah, and timing is everything, man. I was in that same situation as a rookie, going into Pittsburgh. We won the thing before you guys did the year before in 08.
Yep, sure did.
In Arizona. So then you come back and you guys win in 09. And it's interesting because I believe David Thomas was on that team too.
He
right?
was. Yeah. DT.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Texas guys in it. And then so 08, 09, and 10, we had myself, DT, and also Jermichael Finley. We all won Super Bowls back to back with our respective teams. So it was pretty cool to have that situation, man. And you got that opportunity. However, the NFL didn't quite work, in my opinion. If you're going there, it's because you want the opportunity to be able to make a name for yourself and eventually create a career. right?
For sure.
And that wasn't your journey, your path, or the path that God
Wasn't
had for you, right?
for
But
sure.
you continue to keep on. So you go there, and then you go to the CFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
What led into that decision? Was it to
Yeah.
continue to play ball, or did you want to get back to the NFL? What was that about?
No, so I'll be a tad personal here, and admit it. Now, so my mother was sick. She got sick
Mm,
towards the end of my rookie year,
okay.
and so when we were playing Dallas, and we had already it was whether or not we were going to clinch the one seed. It was dependent on us winning or another team losing. I forget which team it was. We ended up losing, but the other team lost too. So we clinched we clinched the division and the overall one seed. My mother was sick, so I flew back to Kentucky. She had just had a stroke, and my brothers was here, my sister was here, and wanted to look over her. And then I came back. When I came
Yeah.
back, I got activated. I got pushed up from the practice squad to the active roster, and for me, she had pulled through, so she was in a stable enough space to get there, and then we get to the Super Bowl, and you get down and you know this was what I do as Super Bowl champion. You get down 2 weeks before everybody else does because you
Yeah.
have to do the media release, and you have to do your media obligations for that first week, and then this hard-line week preparation for the Super Bowl, like what we would consider a typical NFL week.
Yeah.
Well, we get down there that Sunday, and the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, and that Tuesday, I get a call that my mother has passed.
Oh,
And
wow.
as a team, we had all been praying for her and things like that. And she did recover. And then when I got down to the Super Bowl, she passed. So my mental space wasn't that, like, I wasn't really there. I wasn't there at that point. I didn't really care about football, and they did re-sign me. So for me, I was blessed enough to play another season, but I wasn't really there. I got cut during the season and decided to go to the CFL because my college D-line coach, Coach Nelson, he was one of the coaches at the Edmonton Eskimos, and so he wanted me to come up to them, but I really didn't want to play. I just kind of felt obligated to play. Like I felt like I owed myself the option to play, but I really in my heart didn't want to play. I wasn't in the right headspace mentally. Emotionally, I was a wreck. I was doing all sorts of things I shouldn't be doing. I wasn't walking with God as close as I should have been because I was angry at him. I was angry at my circumstance. I was in a different space. And so that's unattainable. And then after that, they had the lockout. When they had the lockout, they at least for New Orleans, that was Jimmy Graham's at the end of Jimmy Graham's rookie year. Marshawn Lynch ran all over us because they did bring me back. So I got cut, went to Edmonton, came back for a little bit, and then they had the lockout. And so they did offer me an internship to coach. I didn't want to do that because I was like, nah, I want to play. Coaches don't have a life. I have a son. I want to be around. Coaches don't get opportunity to be around like that. It's pretty much 6 a.m. to 12 to 3 p.m. every day, especially if you don't got to do recruiting, right? So I didn't want that lifestyle. So for me, at the end of that year when we had the lockout and they brought in Al and that class, I effectively got locked out and I didn't want to coach. So I came back home and decided to pursue my boxing career from there because I had a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness, a lot of rage. I was just mad at I was mad at life, literally, as a whole. And I decided to take it out, in the boxing ring.
Yeah. No, man, listen, first and foremost, I know it's probably been some times past, but still sorry for your loss, man. That's nobody can ever understand what that feels like until they go through it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so,
yeah.
but with that faith, and we understand that she definitely is in a better place. And at the end of the day, she's where we're all wanting to get,
Yeah,
so,
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That,
I got peace about it now. At the time, I was I was all over the place, right? But it's fine now.
Absolutely. Man, one of the things that a lot of people have a misconception about, man, when it comes to the NFL, like, it's so funny when you hear those 3 letters, like, I'm in the NFL, automatically, money, women, cars, big time. It's like, bro, that's not everybody's story, man. You got to look at it as like, man, some guys is just, blue collar lunch pail type of lifestyle that they live. They just happen to do it on the gridiron, right? But with that, there does come contracts, and those contracts can be lucrative. So when you signed as a 21-year-old, whatever your signing bonus is, you don't have to disclose that information. But when you signed that type of deal at that particular time, that would probably have been more money than you have seen, you know, ever,
Mm-hmm.
right? What did that do for you mentally when you saw all of that, and how did you prepare yourself to be able to start taking in that influx of income? Was there a plan that you had set in place? Did you have a team that you built financially? Like, I want to get into the money sector of this segment.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the NFL, I didn't, because I didn't have that. Again, if you look at my origins, you know, people perish for lack of knowledge. And
Yeah.
for me personally, I didn't have the requisite knowledge to make informed decisions pertaining to finance and wealth. I didn't.
Yeah.
It's not like I could get the same information from my peers, because my peers were in different situations. At least when I played, the holding line for the most part had money. I was the only rookie. My rookie year, I was the only rookie in the defensive line, and everybody else was either a draft pick, a high draft pick, or they had been in the league a long time and were, you know, they were brought in and they had got their money. So I had Charles Grant, certified superstar. I had Will Smith, certified superstar, God rest his soul. I had Cedric Ellis, first round draft pick out of USC. We had Bobby McCray. He had 25 million. Like, everybody had money for the most part. And you know, when you looked at me, it's not that I had the money. I didn't have the requisite knowledge to know what to do with the money. Nor was I really seeking it. I was just happy. I was just happy to finally hit one of my dream goals, right? And a lot of people go through that. So when you talk about suffering for lack of knowledge, what if I could look back and do it again and look in hindsight, I would have taken some of those big signing bonuses and taken some of the money and invested it properly, because I didn't have the same financial responsibilities that I have now. So
Yeah.
if you're coming in, and that, again, it's different now because kids are staying in college and getting paid now, paid now. So what I would encourage a young person to do is, I would encourage them to get the not just the resources, get the knowledge now. You know, I've got it. My brother was describing it. My nephew just signed. He signed with NC State this past year, and you know, and the first thing my brother did wisely was put the requisite people from a NIL perspective around him, because that's a dangerous trap to fall into, because the money isn't, you think it's going to be forever, but it's not. It's not forever. And by the grace of God now, I earn more now by God's grace than I did when I was playing. But that's not because it's special or anything. It's because God is good to me and He provides for me. But it's also requisite knowledge and the impartation of knowledge, and then doing. You know, you can't just know it. You have to, you know, act on it as well. So I didn't know that when I was 21. You know, nobody told me. But now, because of NIL and things like that, people are starting to get teams together. You're starting to see kids with agents. And I think all of that is a good thing, because somebody has to protect the kids. And even if they get paid for it, there still has to be some level of protection for 18, 19-year-old kid who doesn't understand what they're going to do with millions or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. It doesn't have to be millions, even hundreds of thousands of dollars, how to invest it so that their money is working for them and they're not working for the money.
I agree with that 1,000%, man. I saw something that was very alarming to me. I was listening to CJ Stroud, and I actually met the brother. He trains out in Elite Week with my brother. Shout out to the collective in Austin, Texas. But he trained out there with them. And one of the things he talked about was when he was in Ohio State getting that NIL money, when he left and was going for the draft, he left Ohio State with a $400,000 tax bill. Right?
See?
So because a lot of people don't understand, like with name, image, and likeness, like that's branding and marketing money. So right, it's not on a W-2, W-4. It's not a salary position. So you're getting all the money up front, but there's taxes that come with that. And if you don't have the proper structures in place, you're gonna find yourself in a load of trouble, man. If you're thinking that I just got the bag, right? So to your point, it's important that you do have the right people around those particular individuals, and that's on the money side. But here's something else that I think that's important too. Earl, man, and you can speak to this because you got to see it a little bit, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, man, but talk about the politics of the NFL and how essentially now NIL, in my opinion, has now started to having that kind of political aura a little bit with these guys in the collegiate space, especially with the transfer portal. I equate that being like free agency. And then now these guys, we just saw I think it was Nikolai Amia Lueva. That's Amia Lueva. There we go.
Yeah, Nico.
I was working on it. Nico Amia Lueva. but he just was essentially released because he basically tried to do like a holdout situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? It didn't work in his favor. So you can kind of touch on that for these guys that's listening too.
Yeah, for the folks that's listening, you know, first off, the college landscape is completely changed, completely different than when I played. What I will say from a business perspective, I will say money is important, but it isn't everything. I will say that, you know, I believe in player enablement and I believe in player empowerment. But on the other side of that, I believe a coach should be able to do what a coach is supposed to do. And so all systems aren't created equal. And sometimes what we do is we get in our ego as football players that hey, it doesn't matter where I go, I'm gonna be the same. And the truth of the matter is, all coaches aren't created equal. All systems aren't created equal. And when you talk about the politics of the NFL, which you'll see a little bit in college now, what you realize is that you don't mess up a good situation. That you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I understand get your money, so I understand that concept too. So on the other hand, the other side of that coin and on the other side of that hand is, hey, pay me what I'm worth, right?
Yep.
Get that totally. But system matters, and I tell people, you know, the guys that I speak to, that I consult with before they go play, whether it's in the NBA or NFL, we want to put those structures in place so that you don't get taken advantage of. And to protect you from yourself in a lot of cases. But the other side of it is that when you mentioned politics, I just mentioned it earlier, the best player doesn't always play because of the concept of ROI. You know, if I spend a certain amount of money, I expect a return. And if I can't get a return, I'm at least going to give you some playing time so I can sell you to another team so I can get the return I'm looking for out of what I spent. And so that concept is lost on football players because you think because I'm better or because I catch better, I'm faster, I'm stronger, I had a better camp. You're not always afforded the same opportunities. And so when you get the opportunities, you have to maximize and capitalize on them. Now, as far as NIL is concerned and the transfer portal is concerned, I think it would behoove a lot of players to get quality advice. Quality advice. You know, you got a lot of people that are misguided because they're honey hungry. Yo, they're not necessarily thinking about the interest of the college athlete. They're thinking about themselves and then spiritual guidance as far as how to operate from a wealth perspective spiritually, because that leads to prosperity. Prosperity and financial prosperity is a side effect of true prosperity. But I say that to say that get around the good group of people. Don't want to be around the wrong people who are trying to look at you as a dollar sign, and they're looking at you for what they can get out of it. So they'll come and give you bad advice as it pertains to your situation. They're not giving you football advice. Hey, this is a great coach who loves you and cares about you. Yeah, you can get an extra $1 to $2 million here, but it's not going to be the situation that's going to put you in a position to get drafted first overall or second overall. Things like that. You know, that's kind of what the kids need. They need guidance from a source that is pure. And a lot of kids don't have it. I think in Nico's case, I don't know him or know his situation personally, so I don't know who's kind of in his ear. From the outside looking in, it looks like he got bad advice to me.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but you know, that's just kind of what it looks like, you know, from the outside looking in.
Yeah, and we won't know until after we let the whole thing play out. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
The initial eyeball test says like, I don't know if that was a good idea, man. You just lost your job as the start. Well, you gave your job away as the starting quarterback in an SEC school. You guys did make the college football playoffs, and then I'm hearing things about some of the guys thought about holding out instead of playing in the SEC to get money. So I mean, like, there's a whole bunch of things that's going on. And I look at to your point, and you make a great and excellent point that I want to harp on, is that, and fly the plane on this a little bit. Like, look, there is no way in hell, I don't care who this person is, that any quote unquote NIL agent is supposed to be getting 20% of your money. Like that's ridiculous. Like, even in the professional ranks with agents, licensed agents, the max they'll get is 3%. Right. So just understanding that we got to be able to make wiser decisions with these individuals that like, you have to be able to justify to me where is my 20% going to, right? Because essentially it's still me, the product on the field, that's garnering the eyeball. It's still me, the product, on the field, that's garnering the followers on my social media platform. So is you taking my platform that's already well ready and built out and going to a business and saying, hey, look, this is what this guy has, this is what he's doing, you should pay him $400,000. I don't think that's worth 20% of that money, man.
Right.
And that's one of the things that these kids are not thinking about, because it's like, most of them come from impoverished and disenfranchised situations. We've seen that. That's the majority of what the NFL is. So I get it. If somebody throws $400,000 or $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 at you, $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is, then all of a sudden you're like, man, I don't give a damn about that 20%. I'm good over here with this, 800,000. I'll give them 200. I ain't tripping. And it's like, no, man, like you're being taken advantage of, and you don't understand.
Exactly.
You don't understand why, because of your youth and not having that team, which is what you spoke to.
Yeah, they need somebody that cares and protects the kids. But when you say that, you say, well, they're not kids, they're grown. Some of these kids, some of these young men have families. And you're starting to see, because of the JUCO rule, what you'll start to see is a lot more older, freshmen and juniors and sophomores that, hey, they're not looking, they're looking at college like how people look at the NFL. And I think the trajectory will be, hey, high school, JUCO, then college, because you can get the 4 years afterwards. And so then it becomes, hey, why, what are you going to give me? Well, my NIL deal is, let's say $150,000 over 3 years, and then you can renegotiate, right? But then you have stories like the quarterback for UNLV, who said that it was agreed to one thing, and that the school says something different, says he was paid out, and he says he wasn't, so he leaves, and the school loses, and then everybody just looks bad. So at the end of the day, it's about knowledge, and it's about requisite knowledge to address the circumstance, as it pertains to what you're worth, quote unquote worth, and what your worth is, and what your value and your name is. So they got to get good advice, and not people who are looking to take advantage of them all the time, and not the agents and people who put together deals. So not that they shouldn't get paid, they should, but 20%, come on, you're not going, and if you're not going to get it in the NFL, why take advantage of this kid who doesn't have anybody else to advise him against it? Where's your morality at, right? And so people, it's kind of the wild, wild west right now, and people are taking advantage of it, of these kids, without the kids knowing, and that's the problem that kind of have with it. But other than that, I'm all for players getting paid. We saw it, you saw it. We were getting, at least at Louisville, we were getting $836 a month.
Yeah,
and they're building new stadiums, and they're putting new from that perspective. So
fast food.
I want players to get played.
I love fast food. I appreciate the checks, but that ain't gonna cut it, man.
It's not gonna cut it. It's not gonna cut it. No.
Yeah.
No, it's not. So the kids need some support. They need some help.
Yeah, and quiet is kept, man. That's the reason why I started this live stream and the show, is to be able to give insight to those that want it. You know what I mean? I've had people, I get it now, man. Hey, man, I've been watching you on your show, man. I love the stuff you're talking about. I showed it to my son. I've interviewed high school kids, college people, professional athletes, the whole nine. And the reason being is keep building up that YouTube channel and getting that information out there. So now when I talk to people individually, I have something to point them to them and say, hey, man, look, go catch the Earl Heyman episode, man. If you want to understand what life looks like, in the NFL and having a transition and to make a career out of yourself, go watch them Obi Okoye, man, when he's, first round pick, and then all of a sudden his career is going essentially the way that he wants it to go. And then all of a sudden something happens out of nowhere. Another guy that I definitely got to get on is my brother, Henry Melton, man. A lot of people don't know his story, but he had a heart situation that almost took him out, and now he's, getting back to it, and he's walking and things again, and I'm happy for him. But, like, man, we all have this expectation of as athletes of what our career is going to be, but at the end of the day, man, our career is what it is, and so we have to be able to make the most out of it, and that transitional period is the hardest thing that I see. I wrote a book called What to Do When It's Done, Navigating Life After the Game, and I talk about the things going through that transition. The first thing you have to do, man, is you got to settle with self. You got to be able to settle with self. You got to understand that particular portion of your life might be over, but your life is not over. And that, I think that's the biggest thing. And a lot of that is because of lack of purpose, man. These guys, just don't understand that, bro. What you did is not who you are. It's what you did, right? And so helping them to find out what their purpose is. Me personally, I believe your purpose is found at the intersection of your calling and your proficiency. So the thing that you have that you're good at, whether that's communication, whether that's skill building, whether that's molding people, whatever that is, and then whatever that thing is that when you wake up at night, you're like, man, I got to get this done. Regardless if I'm getting paid or not, this is my mission. At the intersection of between those things, that's where you need to be developing, man, because that's where you're going to find the most happiness. And so for you, you found a little bit of a stride, man, coming out of the game of football, man, in the boxing. This brother, listen, man, I ain't never seen a medical dude with hands. Man. You undefeated. You a legend out there, man. I believe it was in is it in Indiana where you where you got the belt? Where you holding the belt?
Yeah.
Was it 24-0? I think.
Something like that. Something like that.
Yeah. So we got a real Money Mayweather on our hands right here.
Yeah,
I called him that. I called you the Haymaker Heyman is what I gave you, man. I don't know what nickname you went by, but yeah. Talk about that aspect of life.
Yeah, so I boxed through college. So for me, I'm gonna cut my light on because it's a little dark. But for me, I boxed all through college, and the reason being was initially just because I like contact.
Yeah.
For me, that's always been my thing. I like contact. I appreciated it. James Doolin was my trainer, and then I went with Jonathan Banks, who trained
Kentucky coach. James Doolin was a Kentucky.
He was
the red and the blue unite. Right?
Yeah, for sure. He was great for me as far as the basics, and he spent time with me in my youth. When I came back to box, I boxed with him, and he kind of just taught me the game. And boxing, from a professional standpoint, is a very dirty game. It's everybody knows everybody. It's a very close circle game. But for me, I mentioned earlier, I had a lot of rage, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. I just wanted to take it out on people at the time, and I did. Have fights where one guy, I had fights where I dislocated the guy's jaw. I had fights where I hit the guy in the body, and now he's leaving in the ambulance. And for me at the time, that was my pleasure. That's what I wanted. That's who I was at the time. And what's funny how God works. You mentioned finding your purpose. Sometimes you don't know what your purpose is. So for everybody out there who don't know what they want to do after they get played, and I help people through this because there's an identity loss for a lot of guys when you get done doing what it is that you do. It's a loss of self. You mentioned it earlier, like, who am I if I'm not Tony Hills playing football, playing offensive line, right? Who am I? Who am I? What can I do? And for me personally, I find my identity in Christ. That's who I am. Who I am first is I'm a servant of Christ. I love my God, and I serve him. That's who I am first and foremost. But secondly, what do I need to do? I need to do what he told me to do. And what he told me to do was work. Okay, well, where do I need to work? Where do I need to work? Well, okay, I'm gonna give my this is my story. In the middle of me fighting, I went from 308 to 226 pounds. Fighting. And I had fights at different levels. And as I mentioned before, when I fell out, I wasn't following God. My life went just drastically down. And when I decided to get back and follow him and follow his way, not my own way, and he let me hit rock bottom. He let me go all the way down to the bottom. And he told me, he said, sometimes I let people hit rock bottom so they can rediscover I'm the rock at the bottom. And then he gave me a wife, and he gave me a daughter. He gave me a son. He just kind of changed my life. And I was fighting. I was boxing. I won the tri-state tournament at my first fight. I won the Indiana Golden Gloves. I won the Ringside World Tournament. Never lost a boxing match, even though I had one or two tough fights. And my wife comes and she says, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And I looked like, whoa, hold on. Hold on. Yeah. Like I still got stuff I need to do. I'm not done, getting these guys out of here. She says, no, I'm pregnant. And so, like, you got a decision to make. And so I prayed, I talked to God about it, and I said, God, I need a good job, because at the time we didn't have it like that. We needed insurance, we needed a lot of different things. And so I said, God, I need a good job I need a good job. And 5 minutes later in my inbox, there was an email from the University of Louisville, which I played with, from Denise, who was assistant to the head football coach. And she said, hey, if any of you guys are looking for a good job with a reputable company, give this guy a call. And I called him, set up an interview, and then I go into work because I was bouncing. I was doing a lot of different odds jobs and things like that. Bouncing was one of them. So, because again, a lot of anger, a lot of things I still need to get off my chest, right? And the first thing, they normally put in the back with everybody else, like all the really bad people who need to be thrown out and stuff. It's like it's a light night going to the front. Go to the front, and the first or second person I see is the person I'm interviewing with that Monday. This is a Thursday. And so then I go in and I speak to the gentleman I have the interview, and he's like, hey, I see you got some sales experience from River City Distributing. Who used to stock your orders? I said, oh, Adrian, my guy. It turns out it's his brother-in-law. So God had just kind of connected everybody else to get me that job. And it came to that purpose. And so needless to say, by the grace of God, God gave me that job. And then we went from glory to glory. So I went from earning, 50K to 100K to 150K to 200K to, like, he just took me from bang, 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 bang. And then the requisite knowledge for what to do with the money that he was giving me, making sound investments, putting the money where it needs to be, investing in my kids' futures and things like that. All of that came later as a result. But the perseverance in boxing taught me, first off, personal accountability. You got to have it. If you're going to be successful, you have to hold yourself accountable to the standard. And the standard in my life, the standard is what God tells me the standard is. His word is my standard. So I hold myself accountable to what he tells me to do. That's how I've kind of built my foundation up, and I teach that to my children. And so when I go and I say, hey, I got your RRA, here's what you need to know about it. The standard is what the standard is. The standard is here. And we build from there. We start the foundation in Christ, and then we kind of build from there. But for me, just what I've seen as far as training with Klitschko's and sparring Wilder and Russell Chastain and Butterbean when he was there, and Mike Tyson and McCall and all those guys who came through the gym. Boxing it was good for me in the sense that it allowed me to release my aggression, but it was unhealthy for my mindset, and it was unhealthy for my spirit. And once I took a step back and really reflected on that, I understood that the person who I was while I boxed was not who I was called to be. So God took me a different direction, and he started letting me walk into my purpose. And so now, for those who don't know, I'm the chief growth officer for a finance firm out of Las Vegas, Nevada. We liquidate bad debt for really large healthcare enterprises. I sit in CEO boardrooms and talk to them about how we can make them millions of dollars and do it effortlessly. And I've been doing that for a while, but it's not because I'm different. God did it for me. He'll do it for you. It's because I've decided to do it God's way and not Earl's way.
Yeah. No, listen, that's the only way to do it, man. There's a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof is death, is what the proverb says. And so,
it does.
whenever we let go of that perceived control that we think that we have and allow God to, I wouldn't even say allow him, just that we become in alignment with his will, man, we start to see that, things start to flow a little differently, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's not to say we won't have adversity. We won't have to, go through particular things or whatnot. And that's life, right? The rain fall on the just and the unjust, just like. But what it does say is that when we have a solid foundation to stand on, then when the winds and the storms and all of those particular things come to play, we're not moved, right? And that's the perseverance that you have to be able to climb to these particular levels. Man, Earl, so one of the things that I did in my research, man, you've been called a sports legend of the Ville, man. That's a real thing. A sports legend of the Ville. That's what they call you. Can you talk about going into your football life, going into boxing, now moving and being able to show the kids that come from the place that you come from, how success can be gained in a different space. How do you, at this particular point, right? Because there's still a lot of story to be written on your life, right?
For sure.
But how do you define your legacy thus far of what you're creating and what you're writing?
I did with a lot of youth. So from a legacy perspective, as many people as I can influence and showcase and relay God's greatness to, that's how I would define my legacy. The football, a lot of times in my meeting rooms, I won't even speak about football. They'll have to Google whether or not I play football, because I don't want that to become how you see me, right?
Yeah.
I don't want you to think I'm just a football player, or I'm leaning on it as a crutch, which a lot of guys who go go to corporate America after they get done playing, they do. And I do it when it's applicable because people like football. But I want you to know that, hey, I did my homework. I know who you are. I know you went to Duke. I know you like basketball. But, let's talk about how to mitigate AR leakage, right? Let's talk about how we can avoid denials in the future so that your AR is manageable. Let's talk about what your healthcare technology looks like. Let's have a real conversation about what your needs are so I can showcase how we can help you, right? Let's have that conversation. And for me, that's how I want people to understand it. If I don't do anything else for my life, but people understand who God is through my life and what God has brought me out of, then that would be my legacy as far as the kids that we're able to impact and the lives we're able to change. Because you see a lot of different circumstances. And my circumstance, everybody's got a story, and everybody's circumstance isn't the same. I've run into guys who had it all, who don't have anything. Guys who got drafted in the first round and, got a few, or got a big contract and got with the wrong woman and they compromised their destiny. It's different. Different people have different struggles and different trials. So my legacy is built in helping people. That's my passion. Passion is helping people. My passion is leading them closer to Christ if I can, and letting God use me and guide me how He wants to, not necessarily how I want to. And a lot of that means leaning not on my understanding of things, but kind of trusting His word, for specifically what it is.
Amen. Amen to that, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I look at it when I'm talking to people about, Christ and things of that nature. I look at it like a discovery. Like, hey, man, look, this is what's happening in my life. This is what I found. If you see that and identify something within my life that you like, here's a book that you could read to be able to get you some of the similar results, right? And I kind of move it in that particular space because one of the things that I've learned about the psychology of people is that if you try to, pull people in a particular situation or pull them in a particular space, they're going to resist it. But if you do it in a way to where it's a discovery and this is what's working for me type of thing, man, as like my brother used to say, man, you catch more bees with honey than you will vinegar. Right?
For sure. For sure. I'm a fan of conversation. So for me, it's meeting people where they're at. All too often when you have these conversations, people are, they're engrossed in what they want to tell people as opposed to listening. A lot of times I'll pull a guy aside and I say, man, hey, why do you think like that? Like, what's going on? Like, what contributed to that thought process? And let go, dinner on me. Come on, let's go sit down. And we're not going to go nowhere cheap. No, we're going to actually have a real dinner. We're going to sit down. Yeah. We're going to have a conversation. And I just want to know, like, why you think that way. And a lot of times, the people I run into, play basketball with, shout out to Big Sean. I see him sometimes out and about in Houston. Sean Rogers, I see him sometimes doing different things.
Big baby. Shout out, Big baby.
For sure. Yeah, I will. That's my guy. That's my guy.
Yeah. And Lil him. It ain't Big him no more.
It's
Lil him now, man.
Yeah,
wow.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But just conversations, like we'll go eat and I'll pick your brain. I'll have an honest conversation with you. A non-judgmental one, because I understand what it's like to be away from the understanding, and I understand what it's like. I was there one time. I get what it's like to have those conversations. So, that's kind of my methodology and my approach, and just doing what the Holy Spirit tells me to do. If He tells me to hug you and not say anything, then I'm gonna hug you and not say anything because there's a reason He's telling you. If He tells me to say something, even if it's uncomfortable, because sometimes it's not always comfortable. Confrontation is never comfortable, but in friendships, your friendship's only as strong as confrontation that is survived. So if you have no conflict in your friendship, then it's not a real friendship, right? It's never survived anything. So I kind of lean on Him to tell me what to do, and then do it from there. And sometimes what He tells you to do doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense, but He's not asking you to make it make sense. He's just asking you to do it and trust Him. And that's kind of where I'm at in my life. And for me personally, it's been a recipe for success.
Yeah. Amen to that, man. Like the good book say, man, talk no more exceedingly proud for thy actions away, man.
That's right.
We don't have to understand His plan because we won't. His ways are always going to be higher than ours, and His thoughts are higher than ours. He just wants to see the obedience, and that's it. That's what it's about, man. So I one of the things that we talk about is good decision making. We see the tragic loss of Kyron Lacey, RIP to him, and the decisions that that he made. That ultimately that steered him towards that direction. You know, I tell people this all the time, especially our athletes. I really need them to get this, man. Look, your decisions are going to take you farther than your talent ever will, right?
Yeah.
And so if you
Hey.
make the right choices, if you will find yourself you'll find yourself moving in the right direction. I'm not saying it's not going to be any turbulence there, but what I'm saying is that turbulence is going to be something to be able to help define you, and not something that will tear you off of your path. It could ultimately, like we're seeing in the space in the sports world, cost you your life. And he's not the only one
He's
who's
not.
decided to take that path. And so we might have people that's watching this, young people that are going through things,
Yes,
adversity, right? I didn't get the scholarship that I wanted,
for
or
sure.
I'm a college guy that didn't get drafted, or I'm a college guy that didn't get the opportunity that I thought that I was supposed to get. Man, what words of encouragement would you leave for them before we get out of here? And then
Yeah.
what would be your final thought, just in general, as it pertains to like the things that you've learned about life, just going through all the experiences that you've gone through thus far?
Whew. The first thing I would tell this, I tell my youth group this, bad company corrupts good morals. So the
Mm,
company you keep is important. Um, there's so many different examples I could point to make that true. But the
yeah,
first time you make a mistake, it's a mistake. The second time you make the same mistake is a choice. And if you want to
correct.
be wise, what you will do is you will learn from the mistakes of other people.
Yeah.
You will be twice as stupid if you make the same mistake.
Mm, mm,
so, so what you want to do is, if I'm telling you, hey, I've been in the NFL, are you listening? If somebody's listening to you, say, hey, I've been in the NFL. This is the mistakes I've seen several people make. Don't go down this rabbit hole, and you decide to do it anyway,
yeah.
and then you have to pay the price. And so there's a spiritual law of harvest. So you reap what you sow, and what you want to do is you want to sow good works in good fertile ground. And so I would encourage young people, don't hang out with everybody, because everybody's not going where you're going.
Yeah.
If you know, don't hang out with people who, and I get those your boys, I get you grew up with them. People gonna say, call you fake or whatever else the case, but you have to have you have to renew your mind. And if anybody who's ever known anything about renewal, especially as it pertains to like home ownership and stuff like that, the first
Mm,
thing you do when you renew something is you break it down. You have to,
yep.
in order to renovate something, you have to break down. So what people need to understand, you need to break down your old mindset. Break down your old mindset. There's going to be some people you can't hang around that you used to, people that you love,
Yeah.
people that you, that not there to not there to really help you. They're there as a deterrent, and they're there to talk you down. Sometimes it's people you care about. You
Yep.
know, you know this is what I do. When you get into the NFL and you start making money, the first thing people say, "Ah, he changed.
Yeah.
Oh, he changed because he won't do something I want him to do," and it's a
Correct.
manipulation tactic. So you need to watch the company you keep very, very carefully. Change your mindset, renew your mind, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and then do. You can't sit on your hands. You have to actually do.
Yeah.
You have to put the work in. You have to do. But if you do those things, and you do it towards an intent of getting closer and seeking God first, you'll be okay. That would be that's kind of my standard advice to the young people. And everybody's situation is a little different.
Yeah.
I got a guy right now who's high functioning autistic, is what they say, and I tell him all
Yeah.
the time, no, you're not. You're fine. You're fine. I talk to
Yeah.
you all the time, and you're fine. We never have any issue and stuff. And like that's our conversation. And he's one of my favorite kids. He's like my nephew.
Yeah.
And the response is, hey, the company you keep is
Yeah.
important. I tell my son this. My son's in the recruitment phase now, and I'm telling them, hey, you can't hang around everybody, because some people will pull you to do things that you know are wrong, and
Yeah.
it'll compromise your destiny if you're around the wrong people, and we don't want that.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Look, man, not every invitation deserves your attention. You know what I
That's
mean?
facts.
sometimes,
Yeah,
sometimes you got to be able to understand what's for you and what's not, and to be able to walk away with that. Another thing I would tell people too is also, man, believe in your creator more than you believe in your chaos. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You can't say in one breath you can do all things, and then when it comes to doing something, now you don't think you can do it. It
yeah,
doesn't work. You either have faith or you don't, right? And how
yeah,
will you ever know if you have faith if it's never tested? So expect your faith to be tested,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Man, look, Earl, brother, It is 8:18, man. We are getting to that mark. I definitely want to say again, thank you for everything that you've done, man. You have blessed my life. I
Yeah.
will go back and watch this episode, man, just so I can pick up the gems that you dropped, because it's a lot of them, brother. I'm gonna be real wealthy by the time I
Well,
pick up all these gems, man. So I
well,
appreciate
same, man. It's my honor, and you know, I praise God for it. He gets all the glory. You know, anytime, man. You know, that's what we're here to do. We're here to help people, and we're here to help save them from themselves in a lot of cases, and then edifying me, iron sharpens iron. So I'm picking up gems like you're picking up gems, and
it. Hey, man, I
so
appreciate it.
so I'm going back and watching the podcasts and things like that. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, no, I didn't even think about it like that. Or yeah, okay, yeah, okay, I can see that. So it's my
Absolutely.
pleasure, and it's an honor, truly.
Got you, man. I tell you what, I'm gonna be down there in a couple of weeks in May, probably the second week in May, man. We definitely got to link up. Want to get you connected to my guy Stevie Brown out there too, and Mike Brockers. If you've never met them, they're down there too, man. Good brothers. Definitely
Okay.
love to connect with you and just sit down. I don't know if you smoke, but if you smoke or drink one of them, I don't know which one you do. If not, then we got a mocktail for you, bro. We could just sit out on the
Okay,
balcony and hang out and just talk about life, man. But I
for sure.
appreciate you, man, and y'all have a good night. Everybody that joined us, man, you know what it is. It's your man, Tony the Tycoon, Gridiron Gains. I hope you got something from this. I got to give a real shout out to my boy Monty, man. He's out there getting after it right now, training out there in Atlanta, looking for his opportunity. So, Monty, I appreciate you joining tonight, man. Take something from this. And for everybody else, you know what it is, man. When you align with the divine, everything will be fine. It's your man, Tony the Tycoon. We out. Y'all have a good one.